The following is a presentation of the Championship Racing Network.
Crossed Flags, a racing podcast. It's your midweek fix for racing news and information. Brought to you by the Championship Racing Network. Now let's head trackside to join your hosts, Steve West and Matt Nicholson.
Welcome into the latest edition of Crossed Flags as we get into full playoff mode here. Plus, we're going to talk about, actually two feeder series. Mentioning the full playoff mode means that, we'll get to do our Xfinity series predictions. So that's coming up here first. But then we're going to get into a little bit of news from Indycar's top feeder series, the Indy Next series. And we don't generally talk about them, but it seemed appropriate with the news that came out this week as Team Penske, I say Team Penske, in this case, I mean Penske Entertainment, the owners of Indycar and, as it turns out, Indy Next, they have made some changes there that are going to, I think, make a pretty big difference towards helping those guys that are in that series now and those who are about to get into that series work their way up to IndyCar in very short order. I'm Steve West. That's Matt Nicholson. How are you doing, Matt?
It's been a day already, but we're getting through it.
That's right. We record this on a Tuesday as usual, and we thank producer John for all of his hard work here behind the scenes, most definitely. And we'll have the assistance of producer Molly as well. So we appreciate them both. Don't forget, by the way, you can comment below. Feel free to do that. You can subscribe below as well. And it doesn't matter whether you're on CRN Live on YouTube or you're on Jocks FM TV. And we're about to, by the way, put this on another YouTube page that just got started up for my main job, Real Talk 99.5 TV. So you'll be able to find us in several different places. Plus, this is also on Spotify now. So go looking for Cross Flags there as well. I think what did John put it? Cross Flags, a racing podcast. Make sure you look for that. Because we found out that there was another Crossed Flags that did like 3 episodes 2-3 years ago, something like that. Don't worry about that. All right. So Indy Next coming up. First things first, though, let's talk a little Xfinity series. They finally settled in their 12 drivers who are going to be racing for the playoffs and for the championship in 2025 last weekend at Worldwide Tech Raceway at Gateway. Matt, I'm going to go ahead and let you go round of 12. I didn't go as detailed on this as we did when we did our predictions last time. I'm just basically doing who are you bouncing out after the round of 12?
Isn't it 4 and 4 for each round? I remember correctly.
It is.
Round 1 bouncing out, and I'm having to look down because I just have walked in the door and didn't get a chance to print a bracket out.
I understand.
So I'm looking at it from a digital side.
As we always say, work gets in the way of all of our fun.
Round 1 going out, I've got Nick Sanchez going. I've got Harrison Burton going. I've got Carson Kvapil going. And I'm going to bounce out in round 1, Austin Hill.
Interesting. And it is I mean, I can see where you're going with that. Absolutely. It's going to be a very interesting one for him because when you stop and think about what he's got to go through or has already gone through, he doesn't get any credit for any of the wins. He doesn't have any of the playoff bonus points. He's got no safety net. So I see exactly where you're going there. Yep. Truth be told, I agree with you on it was strange. I'm sitting there watching you do that and I'm going, I don't have an argument with any of them. So since you and I match up, those bounced out in the round of 12. How about your round of 8?
My round of 8. I'm going to have Sammy Smith bounce. I'm going to say Brandon Jones is bounced.
The debate.
I'm going to say Sheldon Creed's bounced. will say Taylor Gray is bounced.
Okay, you and I apparently are working off the exact same notes because I have bounced out Brandon Jones, Sammy Smith, Taylor Gray, and Sheldon Creed. That's the order that I put them in. So that leaves my contenders, and correct me if I'm wrong, Connor Zilisch, Justin Allgaier, Sam Mayer, and Jesse Love in seed order as they head into this Friday night's race at Bristol.
Right.
Who you got hoisting the title?
This could very well be one of the worst kept secrets, considering that absolutely nobody, nor Superman, nor Kryptonite, can seem to stop him. 88 puts the title in the air.
Connor Zilisch. Yep, that's exactly where I went. It just, in looking at what he's been doing this year, he's done what we expected Shane Van Gisbergen to do in the Cup Series, and that was to just get better and better over the course of time, doing the oval tracks. I mean, this is a kid who came in kind of being a road course ace, and he has really adapted very well to any kind of track you put him on, and it doesn't matter. And as witnessed by the fact that he's won the last 4 races in a row?
1 in a row.
You know, and I get it. One of those is Parker Kligerman actually parking the car across the finish line, but guess who gets credit for it because he started the race? That's right, it's Connor Zilisch. And Connor Zilisch has the win at Portland. He had the win last weekend at Worldwide Tech Raceway at Gateway. You see where we're going with this. He has picked it up. And with, is it 8 or I can't remember. Is it 8 or 9 wins on the year? I think it's 9.
I think it's 8. It's 8.
8 wins on the season. Either way, he's got a really healthy playoff point advantage over second place Justin Allgaier, who's the defending series champion. Forget over the cut line. It's over second place.
He's plus 29 over second place right now, currently.
That's real impressive.
But I've got him getting it in a close margin.
Yeah, I don't think that it's going to be a runaway.
Not over Justin Allgaier, but Sam Mayer.
Sam Mayer second.
I've got Sam Mayer challenging him very hard.
Is there something, I mean, obviously we're talking about Phoenix here, something about those Fords at Phoenix that make you look at them real sharp like that?
Yep. I see when I could visually see happening when Sheldon Creed gets bounced out, that they take all of their efforts and all of their eggs and put it in the basket of the 41 and give it one of those Cole Custer-like challenges at Phoenix.
Yeah, throw everything and the kitchen sink at it. And based upon the news that we talked about last week with Haas factory team leaving Ford and going over to Chevrolet, if they were to win the title, and again, neither one of us are predicting that it'll happen, but you've put it out there that you feel like he's probably the better candidate for the runner-up position. That would just make it all the more apparent what Ford is losing with Haas factory team moving back over to Chevrolet next year, where Gene Haas got his whole racing team started.
Yes, and they're in a position where they don't need to. They have got to pick somebody up to offset what they're losing with Haas. Somebody, whether they get a 2-car team going with someone, or if they pick up 2 individual 1-car efforts. Somebody, somewhere, something.
And I think that this is being made all the more urgent for them because once we get into next year, the Ram factory team is underway, and that means we're probably just one step closer to, we presume in all likelihood it'll be Dodge. We're one step closer to Dodge coming back in both the Cup and what will be next year, the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series. And they're going to go out and they're going to grab at least one, maybe a couple of teams to run what again we presume to be the Dodge brand, and those are just a couple of more candidates that won't go to the Blue Oval. Well,
they're considering they're in the door already. You could all but say Colleague will be the lead dog for Dodge.
Yeah,
when they do get back in Cup and O'Reilly Auto Parts. Cup and those 2 series.
And I'll play in the rumor mill for just a minute. And I'm not so certain how much I believe this, but there's a lot of people out there that are trying to link Richard Childress Racing, which has both Cup and what will be O'Reilly Auto Parts presence. You just mentioned Austin Hill. We just mentioned Austin Hill, for example. Has linking them to Dodge. Now, do I believe it wholeheartedly, considering the history that Childress has had with Chevrolet? I don't know. I have a hard time thinking that he's going to go away from the Bowtie brand that's treated him so well for so long, but we've seen stranger things.
Yeah, i.e. Stuart Haas at the time just up and leaving Chevrolet and going to Ford.
Exactly. So at this point in time, I can't discount anything.
Yeah, you can't discount it, but that one I have an extremely hard time seeing that happen. Simply the fact of because of you look at the scenario, Stewart was with General Motors for so long with Pontiac and Chevrolet.
Yeah.
And then Gibbs goes to Toyota for that 1 year. Look what Stewart does. And now I'm going to start my own team. And
well,
he went right back to GM.
And a lot of people were saying that it was people within Chevrolet that were making the introductions between Tony Stewart and Gene Haas because they wanted him back over there. And of course, Gene at that time was running Chevrolets. So there's a lot to be said for that. So when you think about it and he bolts Chevrolet and takes it to Ford, it raised a lot of eyebrows, including right here on a previous version of the full big show at another radio station group. We all went, he did what? Nobody saw that coming. Yeah. So could it happen? Yes. But like I said, with us being now having the Ram brand on the track and they can start concentrating on getting their Cup and Xfinity programs up and running, what we do believe will be Dodge will be one step closer. And as we noted, it's all the more urgent for Ford to try and solidify themselves in the Xfinity series because as we noted, unless they do something, all they got left in the cupboard is RSS Racing. And you and I both like what Ryan Sieg has done and what RSS Racing has been able to do as massive underdogs. But they're lone dogs. They don't have anything else. They're not racing in the Truck Series. They're not racing in the Cup Series. They're only in the Xfinity Series.
Yep. They've got to do something, whether it's bringing out of the mothballs in the corner of the closet the Penske Xfinity car, whether it's that, whether it's Brad revamps an Xfinity car with RFK, there's several different ways you could look at it, and several different avenues they could take with already established, very sizable teams. Let's word it that way.
Sure.
So, but I mean, say if they don't, do you go somewhere like do you go somewhere like Jeremy Clements and like, hey, we want to pull you over here and make you the lead dog for Ford and you get everything we've got for the Xfinity program. Do you do somebody like that? And maybe, I don't know, maybe somebody like the
two that came to my mind were Sam Hunt. And I don't know whether you could pull him over or not.
Sam Hunt is somebody as a name you could throw out there. But with how Sam Hunt is basically all but the de facto 2311 Xfinity team now,
yeah,
you can hang that. To me, you can hang that one up.
And then the other one that came to mind was Jordan Anderson.
Jordan Anderson, he's putting the cars on the track to successfully accomplish that, but with his partnership that he has with RCR, with cars and engines, if I'm Jim Farley and Mark Rushbrook with Ford, to immediately, if you're going to lose two cars and you could pick up a de facto third car as well, because Jordan Anderson does run three cars from time to time in a race.
Sure. Yeah.
Even four. If you want to throw that in the mix, that could be a pretty easy target to go to and hey, we're going to throw every single thing we've got at you. Research, development, engine program, whole 9 yards, which that's automatic Roush Yates engines right there. And Roush Yates engine, and especially on a super speedway, you would be absolutely stupid to not want to go, yeah, I'll put my foot behind it.
Well, yeah.
That'd be stupid.
again, if you look at it with all the support that the Ford team has given Stewart Haas / Haas Factory team over the past 3-4 years, you look at the vast, stark difference between what they've been in the Cup Series versus what they've been in the Xfinity Series. You'd be crazy not to jump at that.
You would be an borderline lunatic.
But as you noted, they are somewhat linked to Richard Childress Racing, which is also, I think, does create a little bit of urgency on the part of Ford, because what if, and I get it, it's rumor, it's pure speculation, nothing's been announced, but let's just say that Richard Childress is enticed to go to Dodge and Jordan Anderson goes with him, and there's more of your possibilities going flying out the door to a rival.
Yeah, if you're after that hit last week, if you're Ford, you are on the ball right now.
Yeah,
Getting something going, and you need to. But personal opinion, before the end of the season and before the flag flies at Phoenix, you need to have something announced and established of, hey, these cars, whoever it may be, whether it's one team or a combination of two teams, to get yourself to at least a minimum of 5 cars.
I would think that would be a good number, yeah.
A minimum 5, because it would be absolutely, again, I guess it's the word of the day, you'd be absolute lunatic if you're Ford and you're only unloading 2 cars off the lift gate at Daytona next year. That would be ridiculous.
It would benefit RSS. There's no doubt about it, because
For
Ford
sure.
wouldn't have anything else to do with their resources than to throw it all at RSS. But at the same time, you want more than 2 cars.
You need a bare minimum of 5, if you ask me.
Yeah, I think to be a legitimate one. From there, we move over. Interesting, you should mention Team Penske maybe bringing their Xfinity program out from the mothballs and rebranding it as an O'Reilly Auto Parts Series entry. Penske Entertainment, as we've talked about, has owned and operated now the Indianapolis Motor Speedway and the Indycar Series for a few years now, and they recently got creative control back of what used to be called Indy Lights, now Indy Next. Indy Next is the Xfinity Series of IndyCar. It is your AAA to your top series being the major leagues. And they decided they wanted to make some changes here, and I've detailed it on this piece of paper here, so pardon me as I read a little bit here. I'm not so sure how small these things are. They were kind of couched as small changes to begin with, but I think as we go through, these are going to be bigger and bigger because of the ramifications for the teams and the drivers as they prepare these drivers to, they hope, one day step up into the major league of the IndyCar Series. First of all, as Penske did for IndyCar, they're expanding the starting lineup for all the races but the Indy 500. The Indy 500 is the standalone at 33 entries, right? Well, it's now 27. Well, they're going to do the same thing. The upper limit now for an IndyCar or Indy Next starting grid jumps up to 24 for 2026. So it's going to get a little bit busier out on the tracks for the Indy Next drivers. What this does mean is more opportunities for a regular start, because they're going to want these drivers to be full-time on the Indy Next level just as much as they do on the IndyCar level. They don't want to have to go doing well, I'll put it another way. Unlike the Xfinity Series, we don't hear of star cars in Indy Next. How's that?
Nope. You're right.
So the more opportunities are now available for the drivers that are coming up through the open wheel feeder series. So there's part one. Penske Entertainment also did this. They upped the starting cars on the grid. They limited the number of cars, however, that any owner could field to only 3, but they've done the grandfathering situation. For Indy Next, not quite the same limit. Team owners now limited to 4 entries each. But again, there are rules that grandfather at least for a short period of time. You got a team like Andretti Global. They already have 4 entries under their own name, but they support 2 other cars with what they call a co-entry name under the Andretti Cape situation. So they're going to allow them to continue to do those 2 other cars. So for all intents and purposes, Andretti's putting 6 cars out there. This also works for HMD Motorsports. HMD is going to field 4 cars under that name, but they run the 2 cars for Cusick Morgan Motorsports, so they'll have fielded and they have fielded 2 cars for a third organization in the past as well, and it appears that they'll probably continue to do that. So there's a total of 8. So that's 14 right there for just 2 names.
Yep.
So they are creating they're creating workaround rules, and they're allowing it within the rules, which I got to admit, I kind of like that.
Yeah, I mean that's if you want to if you're going to change a car limit, there's no need, and for the teams that have been fielding the cars and putting your shows on, there's no need in stopping them in the face. Go, you're only limited to this right here. You can't do what you've been doing anymore.
Which might make some people wonder why they didn't do that with IndyCar, but there was enough interest from several other teams willing to come into IndyCar that they knew that if they knocked down a team from, say, 5 cars to 3 cars in IndyCar and they got rid of those people, they were going to find a home because they had experience from these teams that are now coming in and needed personnel.
Sure.
So we're up to 14 cars. How do you go from 14 to get the 10 more? Able Motorsports, they've got a 4-car organization, so now you're up to 18. Chip Ganassi Racing, which returned to Indy next in the season just ended, they fielded 2 cars for 2025. They're going to expand to 4 for next year. Now we're up to 22, and over the weekend, Juncos Hollinger Racing noted that they're going to be back with their 2-car operations. Ta-da! 24 cars, just like that.
Solid field.
And the cars are set for a bit of an upgrade too. Chassis dates back to 2015. It's also made by Dallara. Dallara's got the DW12 for IndyCar. They've got the IL15 for what was then Indy Lights. Now, again, Indy Next. The chassis stays the same, at least for now. They're not planning on upgrading that, but they are going to put a new transmission in it. They're going to take the same 6-speed transmission that they've been using by X-Track that's been used in IndyCar, and they're going to put that in the Indy Next machine and replace the one that was being built by Ricardo. So now you got the exact same transmission. What the car is going to be like when you move from lights. Now, different enough, but you being the driver, I'll ask this. The fact that the transmissions are the same from series to series, does that help in the feel of the car for the drivers?
I'm gonna have to answer that one with a question mark. Here's why.
Okay.
Because now you've got a heavier transmission on the same engine. Are we going to be looking, unless there's already dynamometer stuff been going, to where one offsets the other? Let's word it that way.
Okay.
Are you going to have a problem now where the transmission is heavier, the engine's still the same, you got a lighter engine trying to push a heavier transmission? Are we going to have bottom end failures with parts breaking because you're pushing a heavier driveline? Or have they tweaked the transmission set just enough to where the ratios in there can be offset to where the engine is pushing something of a similar weight? It's a very technical way I just worded that, but it's a legitimate question mark, because if you got a heavier transmission that's attached to a lighter engine and lighter drive, and the lighter engine, if you follow what I'm saying, you got to follow what I'm saying here. Lighter bottom end, lighter rotating assembly, with a heavier transmission, heavier gear setup, we're going to start having some problems with reliability with bottom ends of engines?
That is an interesting question, and
that's a question mark answer for me.
One would think, I mean, this is not a decision that you would make lightly if you are Penske Entertainment. I mean, you could sit there and say, hey, what if all right, let me put you in the position of the Indy Lights head of operations, and I'm the representative of Team Penske, and I come to you and said before the final weekend, racing weekend of the year, hey, what do you think about the possibility, because we would really like to put the transmission that's in the IndyCar car now into your Indy Next cars. What do you think?
I'm going to immediately raise that question right there.
Yeah,
because
you would have that question, which would make me at that point in time go, maybe we need to go back to the drawing board and think this.
Here's the exact reason that I put that out there. This is the exact reason I put that out there. I had at one point, and for the old school contingent of our listeners and viewers, I had run a Saginaw 3-speed transmission, heavy as all get out. Try changing one by yourself underneath a race car and call me tomorrow morning and let me know what you think.
I'll pass on that opportunity, but thanks.
Yeah, I know you'll pass on that opportunity because it ain't fun. I went from a Saginaw 3-speed transmission to what's called a Burt transmission. That's a direct drive.
Okay.
When you drop in high gear, basically the transmission goes irrelevant. Everything that's coming out of the back of the engine, off of the crankshaft, out through the output shaft, through the transmission, down to the rear gear and the rear wheels was direct drive. The transmission basically eliminated itself. It was straight from engine to rear wheels.
Okay.
You wasn't going through the transmission. The dirt guys know what I'm talking about, from heavier components to lighter components.
Mm-hmm.
Light years, no pun intended, light years difference in a positive direction from speed and raw torque and raw horsepower from power to the ground.
Okay.
Monstrous difference. As in for me in the car that I had it in at the time, as in picking up 0.3 to a half a second in speed, which is monstrous on a dirt track.
So let's get back to the scenario at hand. If you tell me that as the director of operations for Indy Next, I'm going to want to go back to the drawing board and I'm going to want to make sure that this actually is feasible, which would make me believe that this has been something that has been in the works at least probably since the beginning of this year.
Which is a very legitimate possibility. Very legitimate. But that's going to be the immediate question, because I'm going, okay, this is our feeder series. Our feeder series, in ways, is not as financially sound as the major leagues.
True.
In comparison, do we want to put that risk, if we don't get our ducks in a row with this from a drive line and an engine power standpoint? If we don't have our ducks in a row with this, do we want to put these cars at risk of engine failures and them losing engines when they don't need to be losing them and putting more of a financial strain on them? Or do we want to get this tested right, have the internal components of the transmission matched up to what the engine output is, so we're lessening the risk of engine failures because our transmission components are heavier and the engine's trying to push a heavier transmission component down through the drive line to the rear wheels, and we're causing unnecessary problems that we don't have to cause.
Yeah, because you get into mechanical problems with the cars, you're getting into major money. And you definitely don't want to do that with the idea that the schedule for next year might expand out. Remember, we have not yet seen an IndyCar schedule for 2026. And part of the holdup may be that they're still trying to figure out how many of those races they're going to pair up Indy Next with, because they've said, because I can't remember, I don't have the number right in front of me, but I want to say it was either 12 to 14 of the 17 locations that IndyCar went to, Indy Next went with them. And I put it that way specifically because there were a couple of races where Indy Next ran 2 races in the weekend, 2 points races in the weekend. Not all of them, but a couple of them. So IndyCar is talking about having Indy Next join them at maybe a couple of more locations. One of those may be returning them out to join them with the Acura Grand Prix of Long Beach weekend. And on top of that, they're talking about giving them more races per weekend by adding more doubleheader weekends into it, so that the drivers, number one, get more experience behind the wheel, but number two, we as the fans And I say we as the fans, I mean, you and I will be out at Barber Motorsports Park. Granted, we'll be working, but that's not the point. We get to see them more often if we go out and we take the time to enjoy more than just the IndyCar race. We're out there for the weekend watching all of the racing with all of the feeder series that tend to accompany IndyCar on any given weekend.
Correct.
So
right.
They can get a little bit more bang for their buck by being at a track for more than just one race. They can get 2 races in during the course of the weekend. The drivers get more experience. If they can figure this out and get the transmission set up right, they get more familiar. And again, I don't know the full difference between the two of them, but I would presume that there is a difference in feel between, even though they're both 6-speed, both paddle shifted, the Ricardo and the X-Track transmission.
Weight difference.
Do you think that's the only difference between the two?
The weight difference will be the significant one.
Okay.
It's still significant, but not as significant is going to be how the gearing pattern. And what I mean by that, the ratio of first gear, second gear, third gear, fourth gear, fifth gear, high gear, those ratios. There will be a different ratio in there.
Where your shift point is.
Yeah, where the shift points are.
Okay. So with all of this, it really does look like that Penske does, though, want to start investing a lot more into doing what they've done to help out the IndyCar series and start to work their way down into Indy Next and see what else they can do to help those drivers work their way up that ladder.
Yep.
So that's the good news. And on a year where they just got done with year 1 of being in that partnership with Fox, and it has paid dividends for IndyCar because they have, as we talked about last weekend, pardon as the sun goes in and out here and it's causing shade, it has definitely made a difference. We saw the TV ratings go up significantly this year versus 2024 when NBC had some of the races on NBC, some of them on USA. They put at least one, I want to say 2 of them on Peacock streaming service only. It made a difference. Big
difference.
So it also leads me to think that there may be something more happening between Penske Entertainment and maybe trying to work out something of a TV deal that might put everything on Fox Sports 1 and get them at least settled down to where we know and have access on a much more consistent basis to where we could watch Indy Next on television.
Yeah. That's last year with the Indy NXT stuff, they did an admirable job by having it on either FS1 or FS2 even. So this is an opportunity for them to pick that up and get it not at the same level, but
get
in
it
the
solidified
same pathway as they got IndyCar.
Get it solidified to where we know on a week in, week out basis where we're going to find it. Okay.
Yep.
It'll be fun to watch this. I'll be very intrigued to see this. I'm not gonna sit here in this chair on a random Tuesday in the middle of September, middle part of September of 2026, and say that we're going to start adding Indy Next into the series that we talk about on a regular basis. But it is going to bear watching for a little while to see exactly what it is that Team Penske is going to do with that top feeder series of their open wheel series that they own and operate.
Yep. As our late comrade Shawtown Mark would say, and that's not Saturday school, it was a Tuesday test.
That's right. Tuesday tutoring.
Tutoring, there you go.
Yeah, I like that. We may end up having to use that somewhere. All right. On behalf of the producers, producer Molly, who's once again getting us up there on the fine folks over at Jocks TV and helping us out there. And of course, producer John working hard to do this particular recording and get us set up on CRN Live on YouTube. On behalf of Matt Nicholson, I'm Steve West. We thank you for joining us. This weekend, going to be a little bit different. We're only going to do, I think, a 1-hour show. And there's a reason for that. Our flagship radio station is a University of Alabama affiliate. And because they're an Alabama affiliate and they've got the early kickoff, they will be going to air at 8 a.m. Central Time, which is when we would be. So we're talking about doing a 7 a.m. Central special 1-hour show, which means we're going to have to pack a whole lot into a little bit.
Phenomenal cosmic powers!
Itty bitty living space.
So I hope you join us then, 8 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Central this Saturday for the smaller edition of the big show. Hope you join us then. We'll talk to you on Saturday.
You've been listening to Crossed Flags, a racing podcast. For more content like this, subscribe to CRN Live on YouTube, and you'll be set to catch the 2-hour live show every Saturday morning at 9 Eastern, 8 Central.
This has been a presentation of the Championship Racing Network.